Hi, my name is Caitlin O'Grady, and I'm a lecturer in conservation and affiliate tutor at the University College London Institute of Archaeology. I look forward to being a senior fellow at Koç University's Research Center for Anatolian Civilizations, also known as ANAMED, during the spring 2023 session. My ANAMED research project, Assembling and Legitimizing the Past, the Role of Conservation, Expertise, and Institutions in Transforming Archaeological Heritage in Turkey, investigates the evolution and development of conservation as a recognized field of study and expertise, and its role in establishing archaeological narratives about the past. As a trained conservator and conservation scientist, my education and experiences working in various disciplines form an important foundation for my ANAMED research. I have a master's degree in art history and advanced certificate in conservation from New York University, as well as hold a master's degree and PhD in materials science and engineering from the University of Arizona. In addition to teaching in the MA and MSc programs in conservation at UCL, I have extensive experience working as a conservator and conservation scientist on archaeological excavations around the world. Currently, I direct the conservation of movable and immovable artifacts for the site of Kaymakça, a late Bronze Age site located in Western Turkey, which is directed by Christopher H. Roosevelt, Christina Luke, and Tuğçe Connor as part of the Kaymakça Archaeological Project. My work specializes in the analysis and preservation of archaeological materials, as well as the historical co-development of conservation and archaeology as university disciplines. My interest in the disciplinary histories of conservation and archaeology, as I mentioned, is directly related to my education and training, as well as a desire to understand the sociological process by which knowledge and expertise is codified and recognized in the field, laboratory, and university settings. My ANAMED research project builds on this work by investigating the use of conservation by British experts as a tool to legitimize archaeological narratives of the past in Turkey. Preservation in the field has its origins in late 19th and early 20th century archaeological practice, with the acknowledgement that degradation could seriously compromise excavated artifacts and the data they represented. Archaeologists recognized that excavation was an inherently destructive process, and recovered materials retained significantly more interpretive value as evidence when collated with provenience and stratigraphic information. This tenet highlighted conservation's ability to transform degraded and fragmented artifacts into data used to support and substantiate authoritative archaeological theories about the past. Individually and collaboratively, archaeologists and scientists developed conservation field and laboratory methods to respond to challenges faced during excavation and processing, as well as following export to the UK, Europe, and USA. The integration of scientific methods and approaches to the excavation, recovery, preservation, and interpretation of finds resulted in the proliferation of field manuals, handbooks, and practical training opportunities. Archaeological archives comprised of primary and secondary documents, including, but not limited to, stabilized artifacts, field diaries, photographic documentation, excavation reports. All of these provide insight into the ontological frameworks used in their creation. It's important to note that their construction was rarely neutral, as experts actively sought to confirm specific hypotheses about the past and used preservation to establish hegemonistic narratives that were accepted as incontrovertible. Professionalization is a process inherently linked to the emergence of disciplines for which there is an extensive sociological literature. Understanding how individuals actively engaged in constructing and demarcating knowledge to distinguish experts from non-experts is a process sociologist Thomas F. Guerin describes as boundary work, and this forms an interpretive framework for my research. The process by which archaeological knowledge and data was stabilized, documented, and interpreted reveals tensions between acknowledged experts and the presence of skilled yet invisible technicians or laborers. In this environment, the transformation of preservation expertise was tightly controlled by a hierarchy of actors who valued scientific knowledge that marginalized the other by subverting the value of practical skills. By tracing the mechanisms by which our individuals and institutions constructed these archaeological archives, one can find insight into contemporary conservation practice. This project builds on existing work investigating the development of conservation within archaeological field practice that is primarily focused on actors associated with museums, institutions, and universities in the UK. British international research institutes and other institutional monoliths played an integral role in establishing the primacy of British expertise abroad. They served as hierarchical organizations outside the UK from their establishment in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The British Institute at Ankara, or BIAA, had great influence on the trajectory of archaeology and conservation in Turkey through the excavations and professional training opportunities it sponsored. Connections between the BIAA and the University College London Institute of Archaeology are strong. Expert archaeologists, conservators, and photographers actively engaged in the excavation, documentation, and preservation of sites such as Beyce Sultan, Palala, and Sultan Tepe, among many others. Using a sociological lens, I will review the available literature and archives to define, describe, and reconstruct the working relationships between British and Turkish actors and institutions engaged in the preservation in the 20th century. Primary and secondary documents will be investigated using textual and image analysis to build a historiography of the field focused on the role of institutions in transforming the results of archaeological excavation into narratives about the past through preservation. Expertise and authority remain critical research commodities and political tools used to preserve the past. As a result, experts play a significant part in heritage and the construction of its meanings, despite a more diverse range of conservation actors and stakeholders participating in directed decision-making. This is evident from the number of foreign archaeologists, conservators, and scientists working on excavations outside their home countries. And recent events like Brexit expose these issues of equity, which have their origin in the supremacy of Western nations over the other, whereby hostility towards the expansion and diversification of sources of expertise has resulted in isolationism and a rejection of equitable access and engagement with resources. The future of the conservation profession requires a more synthetic acknowledgement of the field's imperial and colonial histories and its continued impact on current practice, as well as a reconsideration of the ways in which expertise and authority mediate heritage. I look forward to my time at ANAMED and updating you further on the results of my research. Thank you.